My name is Elena. I am 87 years old. 87 years is a long time to live, and an even longer time to remember. Right now, I am sitting on an airplane. The engines hum beneath my feet. The cabin lights glow softly above me. Around me, strangers talk about vacations, business meetings, family reunions. Some laugh. Some scroll through their phones. Some rest with their eyes closed. And then there is me, an old woman with trembling hands, holding a boarding pass, like it's a fragile piece of her own heart. Ladies and gentlemen, please fasten your seatbelts. The voice is calm, professional, unemotional. I click the belt into place. The sound feels louder than it should. The plane begins to move. My chest tightens. I am going to see my son. It has been years, not months. Years. The aircraft rolls toward the runway, and with every inch forward, my thoughts drift backward. The last time I saw him, he was young. His shoulders were still narrow. His dreams were bigger than his body. "Mom," he told me, his eyes shining. "I want more. I want to study. I want a better life. I don't want to stay here forever." I remember how I smiled for him, but inside, something was breaking, because I knew what more meant. It meant distance. It meant silence. It meant waiting. Still, I placed my hands on his face and said the words I once wished someone had said to me. Go, learn, be brave, build the life I never had. The plane speeds up. My heart pounds harder. He hugged me that day so tightly. I thought he might change his mind, but he didn't. He pulled away, picked up his bag, and walked toward a future that didn't include me standing beside him. The wheels leave the ground. My stomach drops, just like it did the day he left. A flight attendant leans slightly toward me. "Ma'am, would you like something to drink?" Her voice pulls me back. "Just water," I whisper. She hands me a small cup. My fingers shake as I hold it. I don't know if it's the cold air or the fear. The plane climbs higher into the clouds. I stare out the window. The world below looks small now. Tiny houses, thin roads, everything reduced to shapes and shadows. Is that how children see their parents when they grow up? Smaller, further away. At first, he wrote to me every week. "Mom, the city is big." "Mom, my classes are hard." Mom, I miss your cooking." I would sit at the kitchen table and read his letters over and over until the paper felt soft between my fingers. Then the letters came less often. Then the phone calls became shorter. "Mom, I'm busy." "Mom, I have exams." "Mom, I'll call next week." Next week sometimes became next month. I understood. Or at least, I told myself I did. I had raised him to chase opportunity. I had pushed him toward independence. But no one warns you about the silence that follows success. The cabin grows quiet. Many passengers are sleeping now. I close my eyes. Memories flood in. I see him as a little boy, running toward me with scraped knees. "Mom, it hurts." I see him at the kitchen table, struggling to read his first book. I see him on the day he left, trying to look strong, even though his eyes were wet. And now I wonder, will he recognize me? My hands are thin now. The veins show through my skin. My hair is white. My back is slightly bent. The last time he saw me, I was still strong. Will he look at me and see his mother? Or just an old woman who traveled too far? The seatbelt sign dings softly. The plane moves smoothly through the sky. But inside me there is a storm. He wrote recently, "Mom, I have a good job now. I want to see you. Please come." I read that letter many times, but another voice inside me whispered, "What if he only invited you because he feels guilty? What if he doesn't really have time for you? What if you are no longer part of his real life?" I gripped the armrest. At 87 years old, you would think fear disappears. It doesn't. It simply becomes quieter and deeper. This journey is not just miles across the sky. It is a journey through every sacrifice I ever made. Every night I stayed awake worrying. Every time I chose his future over my comfort. Every tear I wiped away before anyone could see it. The plane continues forward, and so does time. Soon, I will land. Soon I will see him. And I don't know which scares me more, the possibility that he has changed, or the possibility that he hasn't. Before I was a mother, before I was a businesswoman, before I was the old woman sitting on that plane, I was just a little girl in a small forgotten village. We were poor, not the kind of poor you talk about lightly, the kind where every meal mattered, the kind where shoes were repaired again and again, until there was nothing left to repair. My father worked in the fields from sunrise to sunset. His hands were rough, cracked from soil and sweat. My mother carried the weight of the house, quietly, cooking, cleaning, washing, repeating the same routine every single day, and I helped her. That was my world. No questions, no choices, just duty. But one afternoon, something changed me forever. I was carrying water back home when I heard voices drifting from the open window of a small building near the road. Children were reading out loud. Their voices were steady, confident, proud. They repeated words together like music. I stopped walking. I stood there, holding that heavy bucket, listening to something I had never been allowed to have. Education. The sound of learning felt powerful, almost magical. That night, I gathered my courage. "Father," I said carefully, "can I go to school too?" He didn't even look up from his plate. No, just one word. Girls don't need school. Girls need to know how to run a house. That was it. The decision was already made for me. I nodded like a good daughter. But inside, something burned. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. A small flame that whispered, "Why not me?" At night, my brothers would sit at the table with their books. They complained about homework. They groaned about lessons. I watched them like someone staring at a locked door. When they finally fell asleep, I would tiptoe into their room. My hands would shake as I opened one of their books. The letters looked like secret codes. I traced them slowly with my finger. I whispered the sounds. Sometimes I didn't understand anything. Sometimes I guessed. Sometimes I cried quietly because it felt impossible. One night, my mother caught me. "Elena," she said softly, "you need your rest." "I want to learn," I whispered back. She looked at me for a long moment. There was sadness in her eyes. Not anger, sadness. Because maybe, once upon a time, she had wanted the same thing. She didn't take the book away. She simply turned off the lamp and said, "Don't let your father see." From that day on, I learned in secret. I listened when my brothers practiced reading. I memorized words from signs in town. I asked small questions when I could. Some neighbors laughed when they noticed. "Why is she trying so hard? She'll just get married." But every time someone laughed at me, the fire inside grew stronger. Years passed. I grew taller, older, stronger. But in my father's eyes, I was still just a daughter waiting to become someone's wife. One evening, he called me into the room. "It's time," he said. "A family has asked about you." My stomach dropped. I knew what that meant. Marriage. No discussion, no dreams. Just a new house. And the same small life. "I don't want to marry," I said quietly. He stared at me like I had spoken a foreign language. "That's not your choice." But this time, I didn't lower my head. "I want more," I said. The room felt heavy. My father's face turned red with anger. My mother stood frozen. "You are being foolish," he snapped. "There is nothing more." But I knew there was. Because I had heard it in those children's voices. Because I had seen it in books. Because I felt it in my bones. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and realized something painful. If I stayed, my life would be decided for me. If I left, I might fail. I might starve. I might regret it. But at least the choice would be mine. Before sunrise, I packed a small cloth bag. No money, no plan, just a few clothes, and the stubborn belief that I deserved a future. My mother stood by the door as I prepared to leave. She didn't try to stop me. She only touched my face gently and whispered, Be strong. My father did not come outside. And just like that, I walked away from everything I had ever known. The road ahead was long and empty. I was afraid, terrified, but for the first time in my life, I was walking towards something instead of waiting for something. And I had no idea how much that decision would shape the rest of my life, or how one day, many years later, I would tell my own son to go chase his dreams, even if it meant walking away from me. When I left my village, the sun had barely risen. The road was quiet. The world felt bigger than it ever had before. With every step, the fear grew louder. What have you done? Where will you go? Who do you think you are? I didn't have answers. All I had was movement. By the time I reached the next town, my feet were blistered, and my hope was thinner than the soles of my shoes. The town wasn't welcoming. It was busy, fast, uninterested. People walked past me like I was invisible. I asked for work. Do you have experience? No. Education? No. Skills? I can work hard, I said. Some laughed. Some waved me away without even looking at me. That first night, I slept in a small storage space behind a bakery. The owner allowed me to rest there for a few hours out of pity. The floor was cold. I remember staring at the ceiling and fighting tears. You wanted more, Elena, I told myself. This is what more feels like. The next morning, I tried again. And then again. Rejection became routine. Until one afternoon, I walked into a small neighborhood shop, owned by a middle-aged woman, with sharp eyes and tired hands. She studied me carefully. What can you do? She asked. I'll do anything, I replied. Clean, carry, organize. I learned fast. She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, Fine, you can start by sweeping. That broom felt heavier than any tool I had ever carried. Not because of its weight, but because it meant I wasn't going back home. I worked from sunrise until late evening. I swept floors, organized shelves, carried boxes, cleaned windows. But while my hands worked, my eyes observed. I watched how customers spoke. I listened to how prices were negotiated. I noticed which products sold quickly and which stayed untouched. At night, when the shop was quiet, I would count items in my head, estimate numbers, practice calculations silently. One evening, I gathered my courage. Can you teach me how to manage the money? I asked her. She raised an eyebrow. You can barely write your name. I'll learn, I said. She stared at me. And for the first time, I saw something shift in her expression. Curiosity. All right, she said. After closing time, that became our routine. After the doors were locked, she would show me how to count cash, how to track inventory, how to measure profit. My fingers trembled at first, but numbers began to make sense. And with every lesson, my confidence grew. Months passed, then years. I wasn't just sweeping anymore. I was assisting customers, recommending products, managing small transactions. People started to recognize me. Ask Elena, they would say. She knows. For a girl who had once been told she didn't need school, those words felt like victory. I began saving money. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Every coin I placed in that small tin box felt like proof that I had not been foolish. Still, doubt visited me often. There were days when business was slow, days when customers were rude, days when exhaustion pressed down on my shoulders like a physical weight. And in those moments, I would wonder, would life have been easier if I had just obeyed? But then I would remember the classroom voices from my childhood, and I knew easy was never what I wanted. After several years, the idea came to me slowly. Then it refused to leave. I want my own store. The thought terrified me. Who was I to dream that big? I told my employer one evening. She laughed softly, not cruelly, but realistically. It's not simple, Elena. I know, I replied, but I'm not afraid of hard. She looked at me for a long time. You've never been afraid of hard. With the little money I had saved, I rented a tiny space on a quiet street. It was barely more than 4 walls and a dusty floor. But when I unlocked that door for the first time, my heart raced the way it had the day I left home. I bought a small amount of inventory. Basic goods, nothing fancy. On opening day, no one came. I stood behind the counter for hours, listening to the silence. Outside, people walked past without even glancing in. "She won't last," I overheard someone say. "She's just a woman." Those words hurt, but they didn't break me. The next day, I opened the door again. And the next, and the next. When someone finally stepped inside, I greeted them with warmth, with respect, with attention. I remembered what it felt like to be invisible. So I made sure no customer ever felt that way in my store. Slowly, very slowly, business began to grow. 1 sale became 2. 2 became 5. People returned because I listened, because I cared, because I understood struggle. And one afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the window, I realized something powerful. I was no longer the girl who had been told no. I was a woman who had built something from nothing. But life wasn't done testing me, because soon, a man would walk into my store, and he would change my life in ways I never expected. The first time he walked into my store, I didn't think much of it. He was quiet, observant, well-dressed but not arrogant. Most customers either rushed in or rushed out. He didn't. He took his time. He looked at the shelves, asked thoughtful questions, listened carefully to my answers. When he paid, he didn't just say thank you. He said, "You run this place differently." I smiled politely. "How so?" "You pay attention." That was the first conversation. He came back the next day, and then again, the week after. At first, we spoke about small things, prices, products, the town. Then slowly, we spoke about life. He told me he admired my courage, that most people never leave the path chosen for them. I didn't know what to say to that. No one had ever called me courageous before. One evening, after closing time, he stood by the door a little longer than usual. "Elena," he said gently, "would you ever consider building a life with someone?" My heart didn't race the way it had when I was a young girl being told what to do. This time, I felt something different. Choice. "I would," I said carefully, "but only if that life allows me to keep being who I am." He didn't hesitate. "I don't want to change you," he said. "I respect you." And for the first time in my life, marriage didn't feel like a cage. It felt like partnership. We married quietly. No grand celebration. No dramatic promises. Just 2 adults agreeing to walk side by side. We worked together. He supported the store, helped expand it, brought new ideas. Business grew faster than I ever imagined. For the first time, I felt stable, safe. And then one day, life gave me something even bigger than success. I held my son in my arms. He was small, fragile, warm. When I looked at his tiny face, something inside me shifted forever. All my struggles suddenly made sense. All the nights of doubt, all the sacrifices, all the loneliness, they led to this moment. I pressed my lips against his forehead and whispered a promise that only he and God could hear. "You will never be told you can't." I rocked him gently and continued whispering, "You will study, you will learn, you will choose your own life." As he grew, I watched him carefully. He loved books the way I once longed for them. He asked questions constantly. Why is the sky blue? Why do people argue? Why do some people have more than others? I answered what I could, and when I didn't know the answer, I told him the truth. "I don't know, but let's find out." I made sure he went to school, not secretly, not in the shadows, but proudly. I packed his bag every morning with hands that once traced letters in the dark. I walked him to class and stood outside sometimes, listening to the sound of children reading. This time, I wasn't the girl outside the window. I was the mother who made sure her child was inside. Years passed quickly, too quickly. He grew taller. His voice deepened. His dreams expanded. One evening, he sat across from me at the dinner table. "Mom," he said, serious and steady, I want to study in the city. The words hit me like cold water. The city. Far away. Bigger opportunities. Bigger risks. I forced myself to stay calm. You're sure? I asked. Yes, I want more. More. The same word I once carried in my chest, like a secret rebellion. In that moment, time folded in on itself. I saw myself standing in front of my father, asking for school. I saw the road I walked alone. I saw the nights I cried in silence. And now my son was standing in front of me, asking for a future beyond our town. Part of me wanted to say no. Part of me wanted to keep him close, safe, mine. But love is not possession. Love is courage. So I swallowed the fear rising in my throat. I reached across the table and held his hand. Go, I said softly. Learn, be strong, build the life you dream about. His eyes filled with gratitude. He hugged me tightly. I'll make you proud, Mom. I smiled. But when he packed his bags days later, when he stood at the door ready to leave, when I felt his arms around me one last time, my heart cracked in a way no one could see, because I knew something he didn't. When children leave to chase their dreams, they don't always come back the same, and sometimes they don't come back at all. I watched him walk away, just as I once walked away from my own home. Only this time, I was the one left standing at the door. The house felt different the day after he left. Too quiet, too still. I woke up early out of habit, ready to prepare his breakfast. And then I remembered. His room was clean, his bed perfectly made, his books gone. Even the air felt empty. The first week, I stayed busy on purpose. I worked longer hours at the store, rearranged shelves that didn't need rearranging, counted inventory twice, anything to avoid walking past his door. Then the first letter came. Mom, the city is huge. Classes are hard. But I'm learning so much. I held that letter against my chest, like it was gold. I read it once, then again, then a third time. I placed it carefully in a small wooden box beside my bed. The phone calls came too, short at first, because he was adjusting. Mom, the buildings are taller than anything back home. Mom, I met people from different countries. Mom, don't worry about me. I would smile as I listened, even though he couldn't see me. I'm proud of you, I'd say every time. And I meant it. Months passed, then years. The letters became less frequent. The phone calls became shorter. Mom, I'm busy. Mom, I have exams. Mom, I have a job interview. I told myself this was normal. Success requires focus. Dreams require sacrifice. I had taught him that. But no one teaches you how to handle the space that grows in between. One evening, I set the table for dinner out of habit. 2 plates, 2 glasses, 2 chairs. Then I stood there staring at the second plate and slowly put it back into the cabinet. That chair across from me became the loudest object in the house. It didn't speak, but it reminded me. Every single night, I would sit in the quiet living room, listening to the clock tick, waiting for the phone to ring. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. On the nights it didn't, I would pick up the receiver just to make sure the line was working. It always was. I wrote letters even when he didn't. My son, are you eating well? My son, are you sleeping enough? My son, remember to rest. I never wrote the words I was truly feeling. I never wrote, I miss you so much it hurts, because I didn't want to be a weight on his shoulders. I didn't want him to feel guilty for chasing the very future I had encouraged. 1 week passed without a call, then 2, then a month. The silence began to feel heavier than any argument ever could. At the store, customers would ask, "How's your son?" I would smile proudly. He's doing well in the city, and that part was true, but they couldn't see the nights. I sat alone at the kitchen table long after closing. The nights I replayed our last hug in my mind. The nights I wondered, did I push him too far? Did I raise him to outgrow me? One particularly cold evening, I sat in the dark after closing the shop. I didn't turn on the lights right away. I just sat there in the silence. For the first time, doubt crept in deeply. Maybe he doesn't need me anymore. Maybe mothers are only important until children learn to stand on their own. The thought cut deeper than I expected, because I had built my entire life around strength, around proving I could survive, but I had never prepared myself for irrelevance. Days later, I finally gathered the courage to write again. My son, I haven't heard from you in a while. I hope you are well. I sealed the envelope carefully, and then I waited. Waiting at 80 is different than waiting at 20. Time feels louder, longer, each day stretches. Every sound makes your heart jump. When the mailman finally knocked, my hands trembled as I opened the door. There it was, an envelope with his handwriting. I closed the door slowly, sat down, and stared at it for a moment before opening it. Inside the words were simple. Mom, I'm sorry. Life has been busy. I have a good job now. I'm building something important. I miss you. Please come visit me. I read that sentence again. I miss you. Tears blurred the page. He hadn't forgotten. But another question rose quietly inside me. If he misses me, why did it take so long? I held the letter against my heart and felt something shift. Maybe the distance wasn't rejection. Maybe it was growth. And growth is not the same as abandonment. Still, fear remained. Could I leave everything and travel at my age? Could I handle seeing him again after so many years? What if he had changed? What if I had? That night, I sat in my bedroom holding the letter under the soft glow of a lamp. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. White hair, wrinkled skin, hands that had built a life from nothing. Question, are you brave enough? One more time. The same courage that once led me out of my father's house. The same courage that helped me open my own store. Was it still inside me? The next morning, I walked to the ticket office. My steps were slow, but they were steady. I need one ticket, I said. And just like that, at 87 years old, I prepared to chase my son the way he once chased his dreams. The plane begins to descend. The captain's voice comes through the speakers. Calm, routine. We'll be landing shortly. My hands grow cold. I press them together in my lap and stare at the seat in front of me. This is it. After years of waiting, I am minutes away from seeing my son. The city appears beneath the clouds. Tall buildings, long highways, lights stretching endlessly in every direction. So big, so different from the small town where he grew up. I wonder, did this city change him? Or did it simply reveal who he was always meant to be? The wheels touch the ground with a heavy thud. My heart jumps. Passengers around me immediately stand, reaching for their bags, eager to move forward. I stay seated for a moment, breathing, preparing. You have been brave before, I remind myself. You can be brave again. Slowly I stand. I take my small bag from the overhead compartment. My fingers move carefully, deliberately. Every step down the aisle feels heavier than it should. Inside the airport, everything is bright and loud. Announcements echo. Suitcases roll across the floor. People rush toward each other with open arms. I see a young woman crying as she hugs her father. I see a little boy jump into his mother's arms. I see flowers, balloons, smiles, and suddenly I feel very small. I scan the crowd. Left, right, again. I search for the face I carried in my heart for years. I look for the eyes I once wiped tears from. But I don't see him. Maybe he's late, I tell myself. Maybe he's stuck in traffic. I wait. 5 minutes. 10. 15. The crowd begins to thin. The loud reunions grow quieter. People leave together, but no one walks toward me. A strange emptiness spreads through my chest. Did he forget the time? Did something happen? Or did he change his mind? The thought is sharp. I grip my bag tighter. For a brief second, I feel foolish. An old woman standing alone in a busy airport, believing she still belongs in someone's life. Just as doubt begins to settle deeply inside me, I hear a voice behind me. Excuse me, ma'am. Are you Elena? I turn slowly. A young woman stands there holding a phone. She looks kind, professional. Yes, I answer quietly. She smiles politely. Your son sent me. He had an important meeting he couldn't miss. He asked me to bring you to him. The words land gently, but they hurt. He couldn't come. After all these years, after all this distance, after I crossed the sky to see him, he couldn't come. I nod. Of course, I say softly, because what else can a mother say? The young woman takes my bag. Please follow me. I walk beside her through the sliding glass doors. Outside, the air feels cooler than I expected. A black car waits at the curb. She opens the door for me. As I sit inside, the city lights blur past the window. Bright, cold, fast. I stare at my reflection in the glass. You told yourself he was busy, I think. You prepared for this. But preparation does not remove pain. He used to run toward me the moment he saw me. Now he sends someone else. Maybe this is what success looks like. Meetings, schedules, priorities. Maybe mothers become appointments too. The car stops in front of a tall building, made of glass and steel. We're here, she says. I step out slowly. The building stretches upward into the night sky. So this is the world he chose. We enter the lobby. It smells expensive. Clean? The elevator doors close, and as we rise, my heart beats louder. This is the moment. The doors slide open, and there he is, standing at the end of the hallway, wearing a suit, taller than I remember, broader shoulders, older eyes. For a second, neither of us moves. Time freezes. I search his face for something familiar, and then I see it. Not the businessman, not the professional, but the boy who once held my hand on his first day of school. He takes a step forward. His lips tremble slightly. Mom! His voice cracks. I'm so sorry. And suddenly his eyes fill with tears. Real tears. He walks toward me quickly and takes my hands in his. I wanted to be at the airport, he says, his voice shaking. I tried to leave the meeting, but I couldn't. I was scared you'd think I didn't care. I look at him carefully. This is not indifference. This is pressure. This is responsibility. This is a man trying to carry a world on his shoulders. And for the first time since landing, my heart softens. He is still my son. Busy. Changed. Older. But still mine. I squeeze his hands gently. I'm here now, I say. And in that moment, the years of silence don't disappear. But they no longer feel like abandonment. They feel like distance traveled. And distance can be crossed. For a few seconds, we just stand there. My son is still holding my hands. His grip is strong, but I can feel it trembling. He hasn't cried like this since he was a little boy. Mom, he says again, quieter now. I thought you'd be angry. I thought you'd feel forgotten. Forgotten. That word sits between us. I look at his face carefully. There are fine lines near his eyes now. His hair is slightly thinner. Responsibility has carved its marks into him. He isn't the boy who left home with a suitcase and shining dreams. He is a man who has fought to survive in a world that never slows down. I waited. I admit softly, the truth deserves space. I missed you more than you know. His eyes lower. I know, he whispers. And I'm sorry. I kept telling myself I'd visit soon, that I'd call longer next time. But work, it just kept growing. I nod. I understand ambition. I understand hunger for success. I raised him with that fire. But I also understand loneliness. And that is something he is only beginning to understand now. He takes a deep breath. I was scared, Mom, he says. Scared that if I slowed down, everything I built would fall apart. I didn't want to disappoint you. The words surprise me. Disappoint me. I repeat gently. I wanted to prove you were right to let me go. My heart softens completely. All these years, I thought the silence meant distance. But maybe it meant pressure. Maybe he was running not away from me, but toward something he thought would make me proud. I lift my hand and touch his face, the way I used to when he was small. You never had to prove anything to me, I tell him. I was proud the day you decided to try. His eyes close briefly. like a weight has just been lifted. "Come," he says after a moment, wiping his face. "Let's go home, home." The word feels different now. We step into the elevator together. This time, I'm not following a stranger. I'm walking beside my son. Outside, the night air is cool. The city lights shine brightly, but they don't feel cold anymore. They feel like part of his story. We drive in silence at first. Then slowly he begins to talk about the long hours, the competition, the nights he doubted himself. "The city isn't kind," he admits. "You have to be strong every day." I smile faintly. I know something about that. He laughs softly, and in that laugh, I hear the little boy again. We arrive at his home. It's beautiful, modern, clean. But what catches my attention isn't the size of the house. It's the warmth. He opens the door and gestures inside. "Welcome home, Mom." Inside there is a table set carefully, and on it, my favorite meal. He looks almost shy. "I tried to cook it the way you used to." For a moment, I can't speak. All those years I worried that I had become a memory. And here he is, remembering the smallest details. We sit together. We eat slowly. We talk without rushing. He asks about the store, about the town, about the neighbors, not out of obligation, but out of real interest. And then, after the dishes are cleared, and the night grows quiet, he looks at me seriously. "Mom," he says, "everything I have started with you." I shake my head gently. "You built your own life." "Yes," he says, "but you taught me how to build." He leans forward. "You taught me to work hard, to believe I could want more, to not accept no as the final answer." Tears rise in my eyes. For so many years, I had asked myself in silence, did I do enough? Did I choose right? Did I raise him well? And now, sitting across from him, I finally hear the answer. I reach across the table and take his hand. "Life keeps moving," I say slowly. "Children grow, cities change, time passes." He squeezes my hand gently. "But love," I continue, "love does not disappear. It stretches, it bends, but it doesn't break." He nods. "Yes, Mom." And in that moment, I understand something clearly. I was once a girl told she didn't need education. I became a woman who built her own future. I became a mother who let her son chase his dreams. And now, I am not a forgotten woman. I am a foundation. As I sit in his home that night, I don't feel small. I don't feel replaced. I don't feel left behind. I feel complete. If you are listening to my story, remember this. Sometimes distance is not rejection. Sometimes silence is not absence. And sometimes the people we love are fighting battles we cannot see. Do not let pride stop you from reaching out. Do not let fear stop you from trying again. And never believe that your love has been wasted. Because love, true love, always finds its way back home. The end.